Okay, we are going to get the crust done first. So I have 1 cup of almond flour and half a cup of sweetener. I use Swerve here. Then I am going to add to that half a stick of melted butter. And then we're just going to mix that all up. Okay, so I'm just going to mix this a little bit by hand because it's just a little crumbly. Just try and make sure it's all incorporated. Okay, so it is a little crumbly, but that is okay. So I have an 8x8 pan. Just going to plop that down there. And just flatten it out. Okay, so I kind of just flattened it out in the middle, and then I kind of just curled it up on the sides. It definitely takes some time to do that, but it kind of curls pretty easily as long as you're flattening it out along the bottom. So I'm going to put this in the oven at 350 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes. I really just want to start to see it to brown. I don't want it to get too dark. I'm not going to cook this again, but I definitely want it to start getting brown without getting burnt. Okay, so now we're going to do the top layer. I know I'm doing this out of order a little bit, but this is just what's going to make the process go the quickest. So into 1.5 cups of hot water, I am going to add 2 of these little boxes of Jello, or if you have the larger boxes, the 0.6 ounces, you could just use one of those, but I only have the small ones, so I'm using 2 of the 0.3 ounce boxes. And I chose strawberry. My family has always had this in strawberry, so they get kind of mad if you put it in any other flavor. Now, I'm not going to visit family at all, but since my brother does live with me, I want him to be able to have this too. And he'll get mad if it's not strawberry, because that's our tradition. Also, my brother is not keto. He doesn't even know what keto is, really. But he has had this keto version of this dessert, and he likes it. I didn't want to ask him if he liked it just the same as the regular version, but he liked it, and that's what counts. Okay, so that is well mixed. I'm going to set this aside. I want this to cool down a little bit because I don't want it to melt the middle layer. Okay, so what this recipe calls for is a cream cheese layer that is made up of 8 ounces of cream cheese, 2/3 cup of sweetener, half a teaspoon of vanilla, and half a cup of Ready Whip. Any Ready Whip would work. This is an example of 1. I just put half a cup into a measuring cup and just dump that in to thin out the cream cheese a little bit. So I am not showing you the preparation of that part because I am going to repurpose this cheesecake fluff that I had tried to make and I just didn't like how it turned out. So instead of throwing out this dish, I'm going to repurpose it in another dessert. So I'm thinking that I'll be able to eat this because it'll have other aspects other than just the cream cheese fluff. But the original recipe calls for 8 ounces of cream cheese, 2/3 cup of sweetener, half a teaspoon of vanilla, and half a cup of Ready Whip. And that is perfect. Okay, so this came out of the oven. My oven clearly doesn't cook evenly. This is way darker than this, but it's okay. It did plump up a little bit when it was cooking, but it has calmed back down. I am going to add the cream cheese layer on top. It's a little warm. I might have already said that, but I think it'll be okay. It shouldn't melt the cream cheese too bad. So I probably let this cool for about 20 minutes, and it's not cool all the way. It's kind of melting the cream cheese, so definitely let it cool long enough. I wanted to put it in the fridge, but I wasn't sure if it would break the pan. So one really important thing with this recipe, you want to make sure that the cream cheese is covering the crust entirely, because our next step is going to be to put the Jello on top of this layer, and we don't want that Jello layer seeping into the crust. So when you make yours, you're only going to have 8 ounces of cream cheese. So obviously it's not going to be, the white layer isn't going to be as thick as this. But this is going to probably be too much of the cream cheese because it's supposed to be a nice balance. So definitely follow the instructions. Okay, so the last layer is the Jello on top. I like to be a little delicate with it, so I'll show you how I pour it on top. Okay, that looks pretty great. I used the spatula as kind of like a second layer so that I didn't kind of splat all the Jello on top and cause like more of this from the cream cheese layer to come up. So I'm gonna let this cool for about 30 minutes and then put it in the fridge. Oh my goodness, it's so gorgeous. I tore a little bit of it by accident, but oh man. That looks beautiful. I'm gonna cut into it now. Okay guys, look at this beauty. Obviously this has more cream cheese than the recipe calls for, but like I said, I was just trying to use up the cheesecake fluff that I had. So let me take a bite of this. It's so good. I love that there's so many different flavors going on. They all just harmonize perfectly together. I love this dish. This is one of my favorite desserts. It's a family favorite too. I'm gonna give some to my brother and I'll see if I could record him reacting to it. But it has almost like a shortbread crust, and then the cream cheese middle is what gives it all of its like volume, and then the strawberry Jello on top gives it a nice fruity flavor. It's amazing. I love this dessert. Definitely try this out. It takes a little bit of time with the multiple layers, but it is well worth it. So that is all I have for you guys in this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. I'd like to know your feedback one way or another. I am going to finish this amazing piece of dessert, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.